All right, we are live here at Startup Day at PlebLab with Hunter Beast of DIBA. DIBA, is that how you say it?
Yeah, DIBA. It stands for Digital Bitcoin Assets.
Okay, there we go. So, Hunter, how are we doing today, man?
Super nervous. I'm not great public speaker, so hopefully I did okay at communicating what I wanted to communicate. The audience seems relatively sympathetic. I'm always nervous talking about what I work on to Bitcoiners because, like, I'm basically my whole, the technology I work on is, putting shit coins on top of Bitcoin. But that said, we try to do it in a way that's very scalable and courteous to other users on the time chain. And we also hopefully, espouse good Bitcoiner ethos, privacy focused. And we don't we also don't use any other blockchain or side chain. This is Bitcoin only, and there's no fee token or something that isn't Bitcoin. You'll need to buy Sats to use RGB. So, which is the thing that I work on.
Okay, well, let's start there. So, what is RGB?
Yeah, so RGB is generalized smart contracting protocol. And so it allows you to create off-chain contracts that have when the state changes in the contract, you can keep that all the details of that off-chain, and also the details of the contract. You can keep that off-chain as well. And one second.
You need some water. That's all good, man.
Yeah.
It's all good. You were just so for those who don't know how we're kind of doing this, they're going to do their pitch that's like live on the PlebLab. I believe PlebLab's streaming it on Twitch, YouTube, and maybe Twitter as well. I'm not quite sure, but they're streaming all this. They go do their pitch, their presentation. Then I have them come in here. I bug them a little bit more, and they do like a little bit more of like an informal kind of talk, little conversation back and forth where I selfishly get to ask, my own personal questions about these things. So I appreciate you coming in and talking all about that, all about, what you're working on afterwards, after the pitch. Cause I know, some people, it's a lot of talking.
I'm happy to. Look, if you're going to talk to me about Bitcoin, it's basically my favorite thing, I can talk about Bitcoin all day long. So no matter what shape I'm in,
Yeah, for sure. So we're talking about RGB. So if you want to kind of describe what that is.
And RGB, it stands for really good for Bitcoin. So I like that. It uses UTXOs to just kind of determine whether something is double spent or not. If the state has changed before, you basically anchor contract state to UTXO, and this using a cryptographic commitment, and then the state is transferred off chain.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So then what are you building then from there, right? Because you kind of described it as smart contracts. So kind of walk me through this as big old dummy.
I actually left out a big part of this. A big part of my day job is to work on the Bitmask wallet. You can get to that at bitmask.app. It is a web wallet and browser extension, and it builds RGB protocol into the wallet itself. That's the thing that it's kind of cool about RGB is it takes all the different kind of smart contracting functionality that you would normally see in the node itself. It would actually pull that into the wallet, and so that's actually incredibly difficult and complicated to do, but we did it, and seems to work pretty well. So
yeah, that's awesome. So all right, so you left that out, but let's go back to the question. So are you continuing to build Bitmask on or with using RGB or
it's an RGB enabled wallet. It's also considered kind of like a layer 3 because it also builds on top of Lightning. But
Okay, so describe how we're doing that, because all right, so I understand. Yeah, so right, so on chain obviously layer 1, right? Lightning layer 2. So then how does RGB and bitmask work on as like a layer 3?
Yeah, so it's just like this additional layer that goes that works on Bitcoin, and it uses no other fee token or block side
Yeah,
chain.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we think the layer analogy is good. Also, it can scale on top of Lightning. There are ways to create token channels on top of Lightning channels, and that said, that's not something we currently support. Also, DIBA is a marketplace for what we call unique digital assets, and so we're basically in the business of selling JPEGs in some ways.
Okay.
And so, uh, and what we do is we take these RGB21 tokens or assets, and we can put them, we can put up to 250,000 of them onto a single UTXO. And so we kind of avoid this, problem with inscriptions where they leave these UTXOs just kind of hanging out there in the UTXO set, and like they're just unspent, just until somebody winds up finding liquidity in a non-fungible token, which is very rare, and probably will never happen for the majority of these tokens. And so what we like to do, we like to think is we're significantly building a significant scalability into Bitcoin itself, using the capability to build, up to over 250,000 different contracts into the same UTXO.
Wow. Okay. So then what is like what is the overall goal? Like, you said you're essentially kind of in the business of selling JPEGs. You're adding a lot of almost like sounds like a full another layer up on top of Lightning, which, can create massive amounts of scalability for whatever. So, what is, I guess, the future goal and like kind of the development that you guys are working for or working towards, with this? Is like the future for you, like the JPEGs, like kind of like almost like NFTs on Bitcoin, or is it something, a little bit different? Because at first you kind of talked about like smart contracts or something along those lines. Like kind of where is your vision for this?
Yeah, so like one thing I'm really excited about is the potential future of RGB22, which is a digital identity protocol, and we can establish marketplaces with identities, and hopefully one thing that also really gets me excited is the capability to do on-chain atomic swaps between like a buyer and a seller, and a buyer would get an RGB21 receipt as kind of like a proof of purchase in exchange for their input of bitcoins for a purchase. And so that could actually be really significant for creating more trust in decentralized marketplaces, and hopefully maybe even like building towards a future where there are more private property registers instead of us relying on the government to determine who owns what.
What do you mean by more trust in decentralized like marketplaces?
Yeah, so like like if you went to like buy a home, like there's I think there's, I actually have no idea how this works, but that said, maybe there's some way this technology could be used to improve that process.
Yeah, because I'm in the process of, yeah, I mean, I've purchased a home before, but yeah, I mean, usually, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think of like, so I mean, usually you have to have some sort of like seller like disclosures kind of thing, right? Where it's like, okay, from this house, I fixed the AC this year, I fixed the roof this year, but it's all kind of like reliant on the seller to say like, hey, this is when I did this. This was the contract or whatever. So maybe it's something that it could be a little bit more efficient in that
Yeah, and
sense.
actually,
Where
there's another smart contracting protocol, RGB23, which is ordered events, and it allows you to kind of like prove, like time stamping and just order of events, which is somewhat difficult to do off chain. And that would allow you to maybe even attest to, certain documents and associate them with identities and names and properties and invoices and things like that, payments.
Okay.
Mhm.
So what are some of the difficulties that you've faced with when it comes to like building something like this on Bitcoin? Because, I'm not a developer by any means, but from my understanding, it's like, developing on Bitcoin is not an easy task to say the least. So, yeah, what are some of the difficulties and like how maybe some of the hurdles and how have you been able to overcome, or maybe they're still there?
Yeah, this has probably been some of the most challenging work I've done in my entire 11-year career as a developer, as a professionally. Uh, I I love that. I love the challenge of that. It really stretches my limits. Like Bitcoin is for people who are serious, who are capable, and really, like you can't. It's proof of work, right? Like you can't bullshit your way into success in this uh, industry because like people see through it, and like we ultimately have to ship a product and it has to work. And RGB is incredibly difficult to work with in many ways, at least currently, because we're some of the first people to use it, and so it's like got like these rough edges that hopefully we'll be the first and only people to hit those rough edges where like certain things will run into bugs, and they'll fix them because like we work closely with the LNPBP Foundation, who are the people who develop RGB, the protocol itself. But yeah, but yeah, like we're basically using like leading edge technology, cutting edge technology, and it's in a way it's a privileged position, right?
Yeah.
Like it's cool. It's cool. It's like crazy cool new tech, but also it's almost magical in how it works too. Like how it keeps this data off chain, and it can scale so well into these really tiny transactions. But the flip side of it is just that there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into that code.
I mean, there is like the great thing about Bitcoin is there's a lot of open source things that you can you could teach yourself. I mean, I just talked to Damien, who said basically he, taught himself how to code and everything like that, just from like all the open source nature of a lot of the Bitcoin coding and like kind of like that ethos of things. But, if you're like the first mover, right? I mean, doesn't matter if it's open or closed source, there's nothing else there, right? So, I mean, you just got to figure it all out, man. So that's some of the difficulties I could see, to say the very least. But you're here in Austin. I don't know if you're here full time or not, but you don't have to dox if you don't want to. But obviously came here to Startup Day at PlebLab. Like, what are you kind of looking to get out of the rest of this week? And are you going to BitBlock Boom and everything?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to BitBlock Boom.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Have you been before?
I have not. That's like I was really looking forward to this trip, and Carr reached out to me, about a month or two ago, and he was like, "Hey, you should come speak." And I was like, "All right," like, and so I made sure to get my ticket like a few days in advance, and yeah, that. I'm really happy I came, and I'm really impressed with the Bitcoin scene in Austin. I'm from Denver, and our Telegram group has maybe it has 220 members about, which is pretty respectable. But that said, the Austin group has like 400 something. And so we'd like to think we're like maybe about halfway to where Austin is. But that said, we also don't have our own, we don't even have a single co-working space where you have at least like, two, I think.
Yeah, here in the Commons, at least. Yeah. And then I know that there's like other, not, I guess, Bitcoin specific, but kind of like spin-offs. I was told that there's like a Sapien Center here, where it's like people are just kind of like, there's an outdoor sauna. People are just like working out outside, like that kind of along the Bitcoin ethos, right? I mean, you have the KNC cattle folks here too. You kind of have that aspects of things. Texas Slim and all that. I mean, I don't think he's officially full-time in Austin, but you kind of get the point where there's like a lot of, maybe not just Bitcoin specific, but like kind of like along the lines of the ethos here in Austin, which makes it like really interesting to come in from like an outsider. Like you're in Denver, I'm in Tampa. I mean, where I feel like both are kind of like building up, you know? And you hear a lot about the great things, but here in Austin, it's like, all right, well, they're here. You know what I'm saying?
It's cool to see, like you see people, you know, going out and like really spreading the message about Bitcoin and like really, you know, representing and like showing by example.
For sure.
And like, you know, Carr, he puts in so much work, like really hardworking dude. And
shout out to Carr.
Yeah,
man.
right.
For putting all this on.
Right.
Carr is a great friend, and yeah, I mean, I know he's grinding today. So I mean, yeah, but yeah. So okay, so what are the next steps for you, like with your business? Are you like looking to find other developers to kind of help you come on? Are you like kind of happy where you're at? Are you looking for funding? Like, is there something that, you know, maybe somebody that's listening can help you out with?
Oh, I mean, well, so we have open source code. Okay. It's you can look us up on GitHub. It's DIBA dash or hyphen DIBA hyphen IO. Okay. And you can see all our repos there. And Bitmask Core is where we keep the RGB code and the compiles to WebAssembly. And we also have an NPM package already compiled. And we can always use more eyes on the code, more you know, people trying it out in their own projects. We still need to make it more developer friendly. Like we're making inroads towards that. It just we've been so focused on making sure our wallet and our product works the best it can, and then we'll make sure to grow the developer community around RGB as well. And you know, ours is more web focused with our web wallet and our browser extension, but there's also you know, a lot of mobile activity and other tool sets as well. And there's even like self-hosted node and desktop style wallet implementations and server nodes. It's all, there's a ton of activity around RGB if you know where to look.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff. Yeah, so you guys should go check him out and check out like the GitHub repo and like help him out, man. Get some more eyes on that open source code. So yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about BitBlock Boom a little bit, but I want to hear like what's the one thing that, all right, so you've been in Austin, I don't know, maybe you got in last night or this morning or whatever, but what's one thing that you're looking to kind of see and observe that, you know, maybe you've heard about through the grapevines about like the Austin Bitcoin scene that you're really like looking forward to this week?
Well, I've just been really impressed by what I've seen so far, and, you know, the scale and scope, and I'd like to see more, you know, of the community and get a better sense for all that's happening over here. Maybe I can bring home some of that to Denver. You know, we've been talking about maybe having an accelerator of our own someday, and we're very how would you say? I don't know if envious or jealous, but we're just how would you say, impressed? You know, yeah. And we'd like to have one of these for ourselves one day.
Yeah, and I think like, you know, as Austin was definitely like the kind of like a first mover in a sense for this, but I definitely see, you know, Denver, Tampa, like Nashville is maybe a little bit farther along than you know, Denver or Tampa, but like, you know, all like a lot of big cities are starting to build up and, you know, kind of get on the map, so to speak, when it comes to Bitcoin. So I'm looking forward
what's funny is that like those aren't really big cities compared to like, I don't know, New York or Chicago or San Francisco, but New York, Chicago, and San Francisco, like they're centers of finance for like legacy shit, right? And like they're not going to get Bitcoin because like they don't really need it as much, and like Bitcoin doesn't always make sense to people if they don't really need it.
Yeah. No, that's fair. 100%. Right. I mean, that's why we're running into the problems with like normies. Cause if you could tell them like, hey, like the remittance thing with Lightning, and that would be like, okay, well, you know, we have Venmo or Cash App or whatever here in the States. So we don't really need that. But like, you know, somebody in Africa or El Salvador or something like that definitely sees the use case. You know, you just have to, like, some people are just really closed off in their own lens. Right. So, I mean, that's why, you know, Bitcoiners kind of have that open mind, and yeah, man, it's overall just great stuff.
It's almost like you have to break through some of that financial privilege.
Yeah, for sure. Well, man, it was great to have you come in and talk talk to me, and I appreciate you coming in after your presentation and everything like that. Talking a little bit more, but yeah, everybody go check out his projects. Go to his GitHub, get some extra eyes on the code. I mean, as you heard here, right? He's flying solo, figuring all this stuff out. So,
not solo.
well,
I've got a team.
like in a sense, solo, right? Where like he doesn't have the open source roadmap that maybe others have had. So, be sure to check him out. And yeah, man, Hunter, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Cool, man. So, what'd you think?